All right, we are live. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. Oh, wow, we're back in New York.
That's the sirens going. Yeah.
We are back
I
in
live
New York.
near a hospital. Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome from the universe. And the sirens decided to make an appearance, right?
Exactly. Yes. All right. Well, so this is your place to get practical guidance for not only navigating with, but thriving with the cosmic tides. And we are so grateful to be here with all of you. My name's Amanda Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, the host of this show, and we are here with your favorite weather woman, predictive astrologer, Anne Ortelee. And we just got to start with astrology in your pocket because, oh my gosh.
We've been having fun.
We've been having fun. And we've been having fun with all of you and all of your feedback. Oh my goodness. So I don't know about you guys, but there are probably at least 3 times this week, maybe even 4, where I rolled out of bed. I had a very distinct feeling, like just a very distinct feeling in my body. And then I go to listen to the astrology in your pocket, and Anne is describing exactly how I feel and giving tools for how to work with it. And then, I mean, at some point, Anne, I was like, God, I kind of feel like a little bit of a puppet because, wow, astrology works. And wow, we really are like a part of this current. And, I've been doing this for a while now, and I continue to be shocked and mind blown at how amazing astrology is. But also, you are very, very good at interpreting the language of light or the language of the stars. So thank you for this new co-creation project. It's been so fun to do with you.
Yeah, it's been very fun. And I think, I know when I ran into astrology back 94, and I went, how does this work? And how do you know that? And I want to know how you know that. That was my, I want to learn how you did that. You look at numbers and you knew stuff. And so that was the beginning of my journey and understanding the power of it. And then about 2 months in, I'm like, why don't we learn this in first grade, like math and reading? Like, this is our blueprint, our plan. And then we have this energy kind of flying around us that impacts us. And how do we work with it productively? I'm a Virgo. I like to work with things productively. So how, what can we do? What are we learning? And you go through different phases with astrology. And at one point, one of my teachers, I was kind of worrying about something that was coming. And he said, you know what I do is I look after it's over to see what it was trying to teach me. And I'm like, well, that's an interesting take because, we have the experience, the people come into our lives and give us the experience, but then we have our processing of it. And then we have what it helps us do. So we have that ability to feel the energy, make a choice, make a response, and then move forward. So what I like about using it as a tool to look at what's coming is for it to help us get that vision of, okay, this is happening. This is tied to this. This is my journey. I have a choice here. And I love having choice. I love having free will. I love having the concept of you can use the energy proactively. It's not good or bad. It's just take it and use it. And I remember one of my favorite students, she's a brilliant astrologer, Maria, would always say, energy's not good or bad. It just is.
Right.
And use it. And I'm like, yeah, use it. On those days when you forget that you do have a choice. So I love astrology. So I'm like totally happy to do this. It's like, yay, the more the better.
Yes, and that's a great point. There's that question of, well, are we then, if we listened before, are we then actually creating it with our thoughts or with our belief that it's going to happen? So it is a really fun exercise to listen to it after. I did that for the first, couple years of being into astrology until I got to the point where I was like, okay, well, I'm obviously not creating it with my thoughts because that's exactly how things unfolded. So it's okay to have the insight before it happens, just so then, like you said, I have choice. And I literally canceled a meeting yesterday because of what you said. I was like, maybe I should postpone that one till tomorrow.
Venus Pluto Square, right?
Yeah, exactly. And everything you said about that energy, I was like, yeah, probably not the best day to have that meeting. So I'll just do it tomorrow. But yeah, having that foresight is invaluable, and it really helps us to to be in that flow even more. So for those of you asking, how do I sign up for it? You go to astrologyhub.com/pocket, astrologyhub.com/pocket. For our international friends, we are actively figuring out a solution for you. It may be a little bit different. It may not be delivered via text. It may be delivered in a different format, but we're working very hard to figure out how to get you the daily audios at least, because the daily audio to me is like, the texts are awesome. They just reinforce everything, but the audio alone is incredible. So that's Astrology in Your Pocket is a daily audio from Anne summarizing the major aspects and transits of the day with tips on how to work with it. And then throughout the day, you also receive text messages as these transits happen in real time with little blurbs of like, here's how you work with it. And then Anne ends every single audio with the best quote. And some people have said this too already in the chat. She says, remember that you're a child of the universe and the universe is unfolding exactly as it should. It's just such a sweet reminder, Anne. I love that you chose that quote. Perfect.
Well, it's from the poem Desiderata, and it actually is a little longer, but I was like, I have to be. So it's remember you're a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. So that's it. I kind of left the middle out because it felt a little long-winded, but I did put the whole thing in it, one of the podcasts, because I'm like, I got to do the whole, but it's from a beautiful poem that I ran into. I had a wonderful English teacher when I was a junior in high school, and she gave us this poem, Desiderata. And it's all about, go with peace into the world and remember. And it's a whole list of suggestions about how you live your life. And there's also a beautiful song. If you Google it, they sing that last part as a chorus. No less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. And I just find it very much like a warm hug. Especially on those days where you go, boy, Earth school is hard. But on other days, I'm like, yes, it's an inspiration. So go listen to the music, because I swear to God, you'll put it on your Saturn song. You'll put this on replay.
We should play it here one week. Maybe next week we should just play it and we can listen to it together.
It's beautiful. Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, let's go to our weekly astrological weather for this week. Let me just say one more time. It's astrologyhub.com/pockets. Okay. So let's talk now about this week. What are we looking at in terms of the intensity scale?
Very, very high. very, very high. But good high. The moons are all positive endings. So when the moons have a positive ending, everything feels like it's in the flow. So that's good. So all the moons, like the moon today, the Venus and the sun meet up in Aries. So they're a new beginning. Tomorrow the moon's in Taurus, like later today, the moon's in Taurus, and that has a nice trine to Pluto. And then the moon in Gemini is nice too. So we've got like a nice week of good closing energies. Of course, the weekend is the moon in Cancer. So we know that's a little power struggle energy because it's got the opposition. But basically the energy is good. But the week is a little turbulent because we have Venus shifting into Taurus. We're going to shift away from Saturn being the boss of the whole chart. Venus is now going off into Taurus where she rules. And then at the end of the week, next Monday, Mercury and the sun both go into Taurus. And so we ground, we settle down. There's a little more earth in the world. There's a little more comfort. We also have Vesta stationing this week to go direct. So a lot of our home and our hearth and our thinking about where we're living and what we're building to support us and hold us and frame us and nurture us is going to be going forward. And then there are a number of aspects to the nodes, which we always know are choice points, where we go, okay, so what are we choosing? Why are we choosing that? So there's a lot of consciousness moments. But we know when planets change signs, there's a little turbulence because it's going from fire into earth. And if you've ever been at a bonfire at the beach, when you have that bonfire in the sand and then you just throw the earth on top of it, it just kind of tamps things down and makes it solid. So there's a solidness that will be coming. And because Venus is going to be in her favorite sign as of Wednesday, you're going to feel the heavens kind of go, okay. And then when the Sun and Mercury shift, okay. And then Venus is going to rule a clump of the planets and Saturn is going to rule a clump of the planets. So there's a dual ownership. It's not so much about accountability. And we move forward into a more grounded state, still speedy because all the planets are still going forward and Mars is still in Gemini, but he's going to shift ownership from answering to Mercury and Aries. Like I'm in the mood to fight. I saw a text go by. I didn't fight with my 19-year-old son who wanted to fight with me. Mars goes into Taurus and it goes, what am I trying to build now? What do I want to build? Because now Mercury is going to answer, Mars and Gemini is going to answer to Mercury and Taurus, and he's going to get more grounded. So the combativeness will go away next Monday, and everything will kind of earth out. And the ram goes away for the cow, and the blooming and the glory of, I always think of Taurus as that's the glory of love. What's the glory of? What's the story? The birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees. We're into spring and we're into the earthy, abundant, lusty month of May. It's May, the lusty month of May. So Taurus, of course, is, I'm going to make you blush here, Amanda. Taurus right now, Venus is an evening star in Taurus. So she's very lusty. And she's like, yes, let's lust. And so, because when she's an evening star, she's in her, receptive goddess love energy. So we're going to shift out of warrior mode, which is not a bad thing, gets a lot done, but we're going to shift into love goddess mode. And Venus starts it, and then the rest of them all kind of go, okay, we're going to stop fighting. We're going to go have some good biscotti and a little cup of tea and just hang out with the daffodils. So it's a nice week, but turbulent when we go from fire to earth, because earth does tamp down fire. And every now and then fire goes, the hell with this shit. I'm going to scorch earth and burn it. So we're going to have this little conflict as we shift. Whenever we shift elements, we compensate. So Aries is go, go, go. Taurus is stay, stay, stay. So we're going to feel that go, stay energy this week, back and forth, if that makes sense. But turbulent, but not bad, fun turbulent.
So like roller coaster turbulent?
Yes, like choice turbulent.
Choice turbulent.
Yeah, we've got Mars and Gemini, so we're being asked to make our choices and figure out what we want to do. And then he goes into Cancer, and I think on the 23rd. Yeah, he goes into Cancer on the 23rd. So he gets out of this or that, and he picks. So we're picking through the 23rd, but we're now going to pick what we really want rather than what's expedient. Because Mars and Aries is expedient. Let me just get it. But Taurus is, oh, that's delicious. That's what I want. Different focus energetically. And Saturn starts being the boss of everything. So we get a break from, we never get a complete break from responsibility, but we get a little time out, and he goes, all right, I'll let you go do stuff. So that makes sense?
It makes sense. All right. So basically the turbulence is coming from the shift, but not necessarily from the actual energy itself.
Right.
What if you don't, like, I know a lot of people are making huge changes and making huge choices. What if it's not totally obvious to you, the choices? Are they more subtle, or maybe you're not as impacted in your chart, or what would you say to that?
Well, what happened was last week we had Mars square Neptune. So Mars Neptune is, I'm not really sure what my choice is, but I know I need to change something. Now we're going to get clear about what we need to change. We know we need to change it because it's not working, or we're fighting or we're arguing or whatever that word is. So that's not working. So now I need to do this instead. What does that look like? We still have choice until Mars goes into Cancer. Well, I want to do this and that. Okay, we'll do both. But you're going to have to pick when we get to the 23rd. You're going to pick one or the other. And then you're going to take action and go forward. Because Gemini is deciding. So the Gemini time frame in the growing season, because astrology is based on growing season, Gemini is how many tomatoes, how many zucchini, Oh my God, last year we had so many zucchini, only 2 zucchini plants this year. But we didn't have enough Brussels sprouts. We had a fan ban with Brussels sprouts. Let's put more Brussels sprouts in. So Gemini is when we're making our choices. And then once they're planted, when Mars gets into Cancer, we start to grow them. And of course, Mars is an action sign. Gemini is a maybe this, maybe that, maybe a little, you're figuring around, you're not deciding, right? So, but when Mars goes into Cancer, we decide, and we dig it's a cardinal sign. We put our little stake in the ground, and we say, okay, this is the path. So right now, because there's a lot of Neptune with Mars, I don't know, maybe this, but I know a lot of times I know I don't want that. But we haven't gotten clear what we do want. Or maybe we know we want this much, but we don't know the rest. So you go work on this much, and then the rest comes in. A couple years ago, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know we're also still in the new moon energy. One of the things that Georgia Stathis, who's our inner circle guide this lunar cycle, one of the things she emphasized when thinking about your intentions for this lunar cycle was to make sure that your intentions and the choices that you're making are very value-based. Like you're looking at what are my values, and we should always be making choices and decisions from that place probably, but right now it's particularly emphasized. Would you agree with that? And any other input that you would have as we're approaching any new moon intentions or planting those seeds in the ground?
Right. So the new moon was last night at 10:30 East Coast time, adjust for your time zone. And it was at 22 degrees, 24 minutes. So all last year, Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter met in January, March 22, Capricorn. Jupiter and Pluto met 3 times, 24, 24, 22, Capricorn. July, August, September, October, November, December, Mars went over the 22.3 times. So we have had this point danced on. It's like been dancing on our heads. Aries is an opening square to Capricorn, which says you have an opportunity to take action, to go for what you figured out you wanted, or maybe you didn't want anymore, while you were sitting with Saturn and Pluto saying we're restructuring, Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter, saying we're restructuring your entire life in some part of your chart. So wherever that COVID clump was, or the COVID condition, or whatever you want to call it, wherever that was, now the same way Mars triggered it last fall, 3 times, 1, 2, 3, which do you want? And people went, oh, and then they went, oh, and then they went, yeah, that 1, 2, 3. Now the new moon is at that point, and it says, go. We've been working on this for a year, and you're ready. Go, launch, go, go, go. And it's Aries, so it's primal beginning energy. And part of the planets are sextile to Jupiter. So they all joined with Jupiter in February. They said, okay, now we're in opening sextile, take action. And then part of the Mercury is in a sextile to Saturn. And he's saying, Saturn, I know we've been talking about this. I'm going to go do it. Okay. So all the planets are starting to take action and move towards the new section. And sextiles are a combination of Taurus, which is put down what's of value to you. And they're a combination of Gemini, make your choices. So they have this kind of mixed energy where they're a little bit of both. And so the chart is encouraging us to act towards your values, take action towards them. Plus, it's a new moon. We know the new moon has a 30-day cycle, but it also has a longer 2.5-year cycle. So the stuff you're planning now, you're going to see the opening quarter when we get to December on the Capricorn moon, opening square. And then we're going to see it the next summer when we're in the, or next Libra when we're in the opposition, and then we're going to see it in Cancer in 2023 when we're in the culmination. So what you're launching now, you're giving birth to a whole new thing, and it also is tied to, even though we've had all this stuff about changing and structure and whatever, now we're saying, okay, so now we're ready to go, right? And that energy of all the changes that we went through, or we watched, or we witnessed, or we experienced ourselves, now the sun is coming in saying, okay, it's dawn, sunrise, spring, go for it. And to the extent that, you know, we know what we want to go for, we go for it. And to the extent we're not 100% sure, the universe is like, well, come on, let's go try it. Let's go. How about? How about? And so answering the how about and giving yourself permission to plant those seeds and explore, that's what we're doing. But with Mars and Gemini, we're still not 100% sure which we want. So we go back and forth, back and forth. But when we get to the 23rd of the month, Mars goes, okay, I put the cucumbers in. You might want to plant some Brussels sprouts down the road, but you didn't put them in. So we're going to go grow what we planted. So it's an interesting energy because it is a commitment to the renaissance that the pandemic promises. Whenever we have Saturn and Pluto get together, we have a pandemic, we have a war, we have a destructive energy of the structures. Pluto is transforming them. Sometimes it doesn't destroy them, but it transforms them. The structures get changed. It happens every 38 years. Not that common. But when we get that pandemic energy or that war energy after it's over, which is essentially what the universe is saying, not quite finished, but we're moving forward. Renaissance. What's the Renaissance? And so we're putting in place this year what our Renaissance is. And the sun, the new moon says, it's the time, go for it. And it's a really enthusiastic new moon. It's for the United States, cast for Washington, it's in the 5th house of creativity. So we see a lot of stuff about the infrastructure. What are we going to build? We've got all these there's 4 components of the infrastructure bill or whatever. And it's like, we want to build things. Well, of course, that's the Renaissance, right? So we literally see it in our government. We're going to see it all over the world. It's a renaissance. It's a rebuild. It's an opportunity for a new thing. Prince Harry's going home for a funeral, death of the patriarch, but it's an opportunity for him to have a new relationship with his family. So, we're getting that opportunity for a rebirth, an opportunity for well, maybe let's talk about this. Let's try this so we can move forward. Does that make sense?
It does. I'd love to
very exciting.
It is exciting. I'd love to use an example from my own life because you're literally you're using it as a metaphor, but it's literal for me. So when I think back to last year, literal. When I think back to last year, and a lot of you were on the journey with me as I went through my anger stage of being so dependent on big businesses for our food, especially being out here on an island when it has happened in Hawaii that the boats didn't come and bring food. And so people were screwed, And so and especially living where I live in Hawaii, it's like, gosh, this place is so abundant. We should be growing our own food. Why aren't we doing that? And so last year I went through that whole process. I literally yesterday was thinking back to the very beginning when I went and bought a bunch of pots and tried growing food in pots. And it was a pretty massive fail, but it was a step in this direction of like, I'd like to be able to support if anything happened, I'd like to be able to feed my girls, Then we did plant the next phase of it, which was to actually clear some space and put some garden beds. That has been working really well. And then literally yesterday, me and the girls were deciding how many of each thing to plant. We had too many zucchinis.
Nobody understands how prolific those damn zucchinis are. So many of them.
Yes. Our tomatoes didn't work, so we were trying cherry tomatoes this time. Our cucumbers didn't work, so we're trying a different variety. But this is exactly what you're describing. So the lessons, on a very superficial level. It's not superficial though, because it's infrastructure.
Well,
right?
You had the process and you went fail. Mars, it failed. Part of it worked, but part of it failed. And you're like, hey.
Right.
All right. Now I have a better vision of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And so it's, I think the invitation for each one of us is what were those lessons that you learned last year around the structures in your life, the infrastructure that you depend on, rely on, and where are you, like you kept reiterating last year, Anne, where are you taking your own authority back? Where are you becoming your own inner authority in places where you were dependent on structures, people, things that you saw through the process of last year are not as dependable as you might have thought? And so then what does it look like to take that power into your own hands and build the structure from the ground up that you need?
Right.
And it's an amazing process that we're in.
Mm-hmm. And as you know it, I remember this was also when you went to get a refrigerator, freezer, and they were like 6 months and you were like,
I still don't have one.
You still don't have one, right?
No.
But that would be a way of preserving your food.
Exactly.
If they didn't deliver the truck, right? So it's kind of like, wow, what's happening? Because you realized how, I don't want to say vulnerable, but vulnerable is maybe the right word, because Saturn says, how do you take care of yourself? Which implies an element of vulnerability that someone else isn't going to take care of you. And so, he kind of makes you really buck up and stand on your own 2 feet and go, oh, I can be I want to be responsible for this.
Yes.
And it's important for me to be responsible for this. So that's what I'm going to step into.
Exactly.
And the girls went, hey, Mom, way too much zucchini last year. And you're like, there really was a lot of, and you feel bad throwing it out because, like the plant made it for you. And you're like, am I being disrespectful to zucchini, to the zucchini gods? And the cucumbers were like, you like zucchini better than us. So we're not going to grow.
Oh, and we have this new compost system that makes me not even feel bad about not using stuff. It's brilliant, this thing. Anyways, the point is, a year ago or a year and a half ago, I wasn't even sniffing any of this stuff. Like it wasn't even in my realm. I knew I wanted to in some distant future, but I had never made it a priority. So all the things that happened last year for all of us, I think we got to shift around our priorities, and vulnerable is the right word. It was like, where am I vulnerable? And how important is that? I mean, come on, if I can't feed my children, like that's a pretty bad thing, right? So
Right.
Yeah, where were we vulnerable? Where have we taken action and steps to be able to depend on ourselves and our communities, our local communities, more than we were maybe in the past? Yeah.
And wherever the COVID clump was, right, in Capricorn, in your house, now go 3 houses forward to Aries, because that's where you're going to take action to help that clump get what it wants.
Yes.
So you were having a conversation with the kids about, well, okay, less zucchini, and they're like, oh, Mom. And then cherry tomatoes, nice little guys, pop. Those big ones, they're kind of, the little
They
ones
kept getting stung. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, and everybody's got an opinion, and they're all like, yeah, I want this, I want that. And so it's like a collaborative, but it's also collaborative based on experience.
Yes, a collaborative based on experience. That's great. I love that, because last year all of us probably rushed into certain things with a little bit of, we had a lot of enthusiasm maybe, or need, but some naivete, right? Or like, we hadn't done it yet.
We just planted some pots, and then
it's gonna work.
You look at the pots and you go, man, I eat a lot more than 3 tomatoes. They only made 3 tomatoes. I would be really hungry if I relied on my pots. I need a plot of land, So, and it's kind of like, when we were talking a couple weeks ago about training wheels, and you said, yeah, when I get in the car and I'm like, do I press the gas? And everybody goes, oh, I have a good friend, Julie, and her son Dylan is a comedian nonpareil. He's the funniest kid you'd ever want to meet. And he had an older brother, Matthew, and Matthew had gotten his permit. And Julie was like, come on, we're going to go out and take Matthew out for a road ride. And so Dylan comes out, he's got a pillow taped to his belly, he's got a helmet. He's like, I'm ready, and it's like, like I'm ready to get in the car with my brother driving, but it's that kind of energy. We learned, like, oh, really? Where's the gas? Like, what's that about? So our understanding now, we're getting wiser. We're making our choices. We're Mars and Gemini, a little of this, a little of that. Well, a little less zucchini, but boy, do we learn a lot of ways. Zucchini bread, zucchini pasta, zucchini poached, zucchini baked, zucchini fries. Too much zucchini. Yeah.
Oh my God. I love this too. Carol says, you are planting by the almanac, right? They have these Hawaiian moon calendars here. So every single day of the month, you know exactly what kind of things to plant depending on the moon phase. And so this is brilliant. This is a way to bring astrology into, well, astrology is already in every aspect of life, but bringing conscious awareness to how we're planting. So yes, we planted yesterday on the new moon because it was like, let's go. We're planting some stuff in the ground. All right. So, Anne, let me summarize for us. Are there any other aspects that you want to highlight for this week?
The energy of Mercury squares Pluto. So we have some arguments. and he squares Pluto on the 17th. The Sun squares Pluto on the 16th, and Venus squares Pluto on the 11th. So yesterday we had the Sun square Pluto last night, and so we're having the not doing that, gonna do this. So the squares give us a choice. So Venus did it last night, and then Mercury and the Sun do it on the 16th and the 17th. So what that does is it says to us, these are the choices I'm making. So that's kind of a positive choice energy. And Mars this week does have a little bit of a tussle on the 19th with Saturn, like just a little argument where Saturn's trying to boss him around and Mars is saying no. And Mars also has an opportunity to kind of shift a power dynamic on the 18th. So those are the big things. And then of course Pluto this week meets the nodes, and that happens on the 11th and the 14th. So that's also looking at some power dynamics and watching them shift. And we also have Juno stationing to go retrograde at 24 Sag. So she's going to be going back. Kind of a lot of people are renegotiating partnerships or sitting down and having conversations with partner about, I want to go do this, you want to do that, how are we going to work it, or are we going to end it, or are we going to figure out a new way to do it? So the Juno retrograde is an opportunity to revisit partnerships and say, okay, I'm in again, or, we've been talking about this for a while, and I think maybe we need to go our own separate ways, and we'll see what happens. So it's kind of partnerships are under a lot of stress. They're either forming, like you and I formed a new one under this energy, or they're ending, and, that's okay. It's like an adjusting energy because it's about what the power dynamic is in the partnership. So that's the core. If you go into the power piece, like, well, how have we been using the power in the relationship? I was talking to someone the other day and they were the power of love. And it was some quote that if you have power, it's not love, but if you have love, it's got power. It was like, I'm not saying it right, but it was this understanding love and power and the dynamic of the two of them and what that looks like. Because this energy is very creative, but it's also saying, are we in a power struggle? And if so, do I want to be in a power struggle with you over this or not? And if I'm not in a power struggle, how do I work with you to create? Because Pluto, when he's in this power struggle mode, and remember, all the planets are squaring him. So they're all in Aries going to Capricorn. Don't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. Don't tell me. And so you kind of go, all right, I'm not going to get into a power struggle with you. You got choice. You got free will. Go ahead and make the choice. See what happens. I'm not the boss of you. When you hear someone say, you're not the boss of me, you're hearing that little power struggle dynamic because we're trying to equalize. Like you're not telling the kids, more zucchini. We need more zucchini. And they're like, eh. You're going, what do we want? And everybody's contributing and collaborating and happy. They're getting their tomatoes. They're getting a little less zucchini. Boy, Mom, there was too much. And you're like, okay, cucumbers, still green, still a water-based vegetable, but everybody feels a little friendlier towards cucumbers than they do towards zucchini right now. Right. So it's understanding how do you negotiate that power vibe that everybody's kind of feeling, does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
It's very much, that's where the turbulence comes because as the square happens, we go, I don't think so. Or I'm leaving, or I think we need to talk about this. And we either do or don't. And then remember, Aries planets are pretty opinionated, but they're answering to the Mars and Gemini. So they're kind of like, all right. I'll give you another chance. Or, you know what? I've given you enough chances. You get to do this yourself. I'll check back. I'm going to go off and do this thing over here. And both are right. We're not, remember, we're adjusting our world through December. So we're not making final decisions. We're making transactional decisions. It's not final. It's for the moment. And if we think of it that way, like when I was quitting smoking, when you think I'll never have another cigarette for the rest of my life, they don't tell you to think like that. They say, I'm just not going to have a cigarette right now. I'm going to delay it. I'm going to postpone it. I'm going to and you kind of have to slip into it a little, because forever sounds scary. But for now, I can grow more tomatoes. I can not smoke now. Yeah, it's that kind of energy, because it is a consciousness of choice and action, but it's also, we're not 100% sure we really want to do it.
And I love this question from Kristen. Can Anne talk about the Pluto squares people born in the early 80s are living through? I know this is a big deal. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, the Pluto square Pluto is, I always think of any Pluto transit, but particularly the Pluto square Pluto. Any Pluto transit wants to talk to you about your understanding about control and power, because Pluto is where we can be really obsessed. It's either the on or off. We're either really into it or we're really done with it and we're not doing it, right? Or we're in and we're doing it. So we know Pluto's got this obsessive nature. And when he has an aspect to a planet, it wants to teach us about our obsessions. So the babies that are born in the 80s have Pluto getting a square from Pluto in Capricorn, and they're born with Pluto in Libra, which says my passion, the area that I'm going to evolve and change, is Libran relationships. So I'm obsessed with relationships. And a lot of the Pluto and Libra kids, remember, it came out of the Pluto in Virgo. So women were able to make money. They didn't have to stay in relationship anymore to survive. So the Pluto and Libra generation, the babies born then, were born when a lot of people were getting divorced. And I remember when Mrs. Powell left Mr. Powell, it was very shocking. My mother was like, just, crazed about it. And I was like, well, she doesn't want to be with him anymore, because I'm a Pluto and Leo. Why would you stay with someone you don't like? My mother's a Pluto in Cancer. You don't leave security, right? So the Pluto and Libra babies are all born trying to understand relationships. That's their job. And a lot of them are either really in relationships, very intense at a young age, or they avoid them like the plague because they're afraid of them. And I'm good either way. Or they have this mixed relationship. So when Pluto in Capricorn comes to square Pluto in Libra, it says you need to make a decision about relationships because you're getting older, Capricorn, and you're running out of time, Capricorn. And so you have to think about what your choices are. Because up until now, you've had this relationship with relationships that has been Plutonian. And now Pluto's saying you have to pick. And what Pluto always does is he comes to you and he goes, I want to talk to you about this planet. And you go, yeah. I'm pretty good with that planet. I know how to do that planet. And he goes, really? And you go, yeah, I know how to do that. And he goes, okay, let's talk. And then you're kind of like, I may not know how to do that planet. Like, I thought I knew how to do that planet. But now that you and I are having this conversation and you're taking me on this journey into the underworld, I'm really learning. And of course, Pluto is triangles. So it introduces a third something into the dynamic. And it says there's always a triangle in the relationship. What is the triangle? What is the power of the triangle? Triangles imply 1, 2, 3, 2 against 1. Are we all working together? Can we work with the triangle? Do we need to dump the triangle? Is it a drug addiction? Is it another person? What's the passion? And so when Pluto comes to square Pluto, it says to you, understand the triangle dramatics that you're working with, because you're going to have to figure out how to handle this. And so it tends to be a 2 to 3 year transit. You don't really get a clear gift of vision of it until you're a little past it. Because Pluto has to get a little space for you to look back and go, and I learned a lot about that topic. People always say, I never want to do it again. But boy, did I learn a lot. And the other part is when you're finished, you get a present from Pluto. He gives you a present. So I always say to people, when you're having a Pluto, you're going to get a present when this is over. I have a few clients that have had it in their 6th house, and they got condos in Maui. But the Pluto transit was at their workplace, right? They had hell through the work, but then they got a condo because it's the 2nd house, right? So wherever your Pluto is, you get a present when you're done with it. So the Pluto and Libra are going to get a real understanding of relationships and get a whole new concept of relationships when they finish with the Libra. And then you look at what house it's in to see where you're learning about your relationship, where you're a little obsessive, because wherever Pluto is, we're obsessed about something, or where you're trying to control stuff, because Pluto likes to control things, but also where you're partnering, where you're supposed to work collaboratively in some kind of creative way, which is, of course, the higher form of relationships. When we're in a good relationship, we can create. They cut, we chop, we cook, they do the dishes. In the meantime, the meal is made. So there's a wonderful energy to Pluto in Libra, but it also is, they're getting a square from Capricorn. They're getting the reality. Yes, we love the Pluto book by Stephen.
I'm reading this right now because I have Pluto coming to my Venus and Sun. And so, like you said, we think we know how to work with the planets, because I've already had a Pluto square to my nodes, which was quite dramatic.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm approaching Pluto with a lot of humility and saying, let me know you more. Let me understand you more. Let me put out the welcome mat. And so I can work with you a lot more effectively than I did last time. Hopefully.
And also, I like Donna Cunningham's book on Pluto. She's got a good one too.
Okay, nice. Okay, so for those listening,
Pluto does, remember, he's a trans personal. He doesn't care about you at all. He does not kill you, though. That's, like Saturn will kill you, Mars will kill you, Uranus. Pluto doesn't kill you. He just tortures you, and then he lets you come back to consciousness, and then he tortures you again. And you're like, oh my God, can he just kill me? And he hits no. You got to go right to the edge and then come back. So he's an interesting guy.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So for those that are on, why can't I do this? My goodness. Those listening.
Stephen Forrest. Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen Forrest, the Book of Pluto. Again, that's Stephen Forrest, the Book of Pluto. I actually have Stephen and Ricky Williams coming on the podcast here soon.
Oh,
so
good.
Stephen Forrest, a legend in astrology, and Ricky Williams, a legend in NFL football turned astrologer. I'm going to have them on together, which is going to be super fun. That's
cool. That's really good. Yeah. And I like Donna Cunningham's book on Pluto too. Nice. Because it when you're having a Pluto and also if you're having a Pluto transit, get the Power book by Robert Greene. I always say to my students, that is the 48 laws of power. Yes, they're a little mean, but it says this is a law of power. This is what it's trying to do. And this is the antidote. So it gives you a way to handle when you're having it, when you're getting the Pluto transit in your workplace or from your boss or from your partner or wherever you're getting it. And of course, you're going to watch all your friends go through Pluto transit at the same time. They're going to be dealing it wherever Pluto is in their chart. You're going to be dealing with it where it is in yours. But squares are action. They want us to take action and they want us to be conscious.
So, Anne, what was the name of that second book?
Power by Robert Greene.
Power by Robert Greene. Okay. So many books to read. Do you all have, I have like stacks of books, astrology books by my bed, and I'm an Audible person, because that's like one of the best ways for me to consume content is like while driving, while doing the dishes, while, doing other things. And none of the astrology books are on Audible, like almost zero. So it's very,
the Power book's on audio.
It is? Ooh, yay.
Audio. Yeah.
Okay. Fabulous. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do my little summary here.
We love the Amanda summary. Yay.
We have a high intensity week. So you didn't give us a number. You just said high intensity.
High intensity. I think, I think a lot of people are going to feel relieved that the week is shifting. So they're going to feel 3, 4, 5. And then some people are going to feel like, oh my God, I just got dropped on my head. And they're going to be like 80.
Would you say that's maybe people that have a lot of fire in their chart? They've been sort of riding that fire energy, and the earth energy won't feel as energizing and exuberant for them?
The fire and air people feel like the world comes to a stop. The earth and water people go, oh, thank God. We're done with the fire. I was talking to a Capricorn right before this, and, she's a stellium, and she's like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm like, you'll feel better in a couple of days, because right now she's just like 90 miles an hour and she has an air rising. So she's just felt like very churned up. And, it goes into earth and she's going to be like, yeah, earth. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay. All right. It's turbulent because we are going from fire to earth. We have Venus moving into Taurus. We have Mercury moving into Taurus. The sun moving into Taurus soon. We have Vesta stationing. This is where a lot of our home stuff, a lot of our home projects and things around the home are going to start moving forward. We have choice points this week. we also have, we're moving from a Saturn ruled existence, a Saturn ruled chart, to Venus and Saturn co-ruling, which also shifts the energy for all of us. It's going to feel different. It's going to still feel speedy, but not as fiery. Would you say that's true?
Speedy, but not quite so careening. You know, fire is careening. You know, think about fire when you watch the fire forest fire pictures, when there's a fire somewhere and it leaps and it jumps and it flies.
Yes.
Earth is kind of more like, yeah, I can move, but I'm not moving that fast.
Okay.
So it's not careening. It's not that crazy, out of control speeding. You know, race car driver energy. We're gonna calm it down a little. Yeah.
Okay, great. So then we also have Venus moving from the morning star to the evening star, even though we still can't see her yet, right? Because she's still
she moved back when she met the sun, but now we're going to see her when she's on the far side of the sun. It takes 60 days from the conjunction to see her, so we'll see her soon. But you know, she is an evening star, but now instead of being in Aries, she's in Taurus, which is her favorite sign. So she's going to get more, you know, like, hey baby, let's go peel some grapes and drink champagne, instead of, I've been exercising and sweating to get in shape for my bikini season. You know, she's like, you know, I want to like be languorous and lie and have you peel grapes and feed them to me.
Nice. Awesome. So you said earthy, abundant, lusty. She's going from that warrior. She's going from the warrior energy to the love goddess. These birds are so vocal today.
They're looking for a honey. They're like, hey baby, it's in Aries. I'm singing to you, and then come hang out with me and come to my nest. Yeah.
All right. So we have Mars moving into Cancer.
That's in 23rd of the month. It's a little.
So we have a little bit, not this week. Okay, we'll talk about that next week. We have an opportunity to take action on the things that were being restructured while we were sitting last year. This new moon in particular is a go energy. We've been working on this for a year. What are your values? Time to make choices, time to like put those into action, but remembering that this might not be the end of the story. We're just moving the story forward. Yeah.
Yep. And with Mars and Gemini, we have to do everything twice. 1 time, 2 time. And then also Mars is out of bounds. So he's a little bit over the top. So we go, wow, that's a little over the top. And he does do that. He hits home runs. Sometimes line drives into the stands. Don't take it personally. Just do it again. You know, to my example of hitting 2 cars last week when I went to my closing. I was like, oh, can't believe I hit people. But I only 3 miles an hour. You know, it wasn't a big dent. There was no dents, but it was like that moment of,
yes.
And then you have to do it twice, and then you go, all right, you know, and focus on driving instead of thinking about your closing, right? So it's going to be interrupting you to make you focus a little better. Think of it that way.
Okay. And this new moon is birthing a cycle that is going to unfold starting now.
30 days.
December.
2.5 years. Yep.
Yeah, December, then next Libra season, wrapping up in Cancer of 2023. So be thinking of the next couple of years while you're writing those new moon intentions.
The bigger projects, you know, so like, so I have an OBGYN who's a patient, who's a client of mine, she has patience, but she writes books, and she really writes them with this lunar phase. And one point she was like, oh my God, I'm like, honey, you know, you do this all the time. You're telling people when they're giving birth. She goes, oh, you're right. You know, and it was very funny because, you know, we have a very good relationship. But she's like, you're right. I do that all the time. I do know this. I've been doing it all my life because I'm an OBGYN. I'm like, totally. So it's that 9.5 human gestation cycle. So if you get pregnant this week, because it's a great aspect for pregnancy, you give baby in December, right? So and whatever you start now, there's a baby in December.
All right. Make a list of the lessons that you learned last year. Make a list of your values. We're going to be doing that together on the Inner Circle New Moon ceremony here soon. There could be an energy of argumentativeness. Is that a word? Some power struggles. And for those, just watch the power dynamics unfolding. You can decide to either play with it or just opt out, but know that that's going to be up.
Yep. Yep.
We're renegotiating some partnerships, potentially renegotiating partnerships
or forming new ones. Yep.
Or forming new ones. Exactly. And or leaving some potentially. Right? Yeah. And that's the week.
A lot of stuff going on. We're all going to be like, wow, 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 wow. And then it kind of calms down, which is nice. So it gets a little slower. So
all right.
This week's a little frantic,
Frenetic. It's been feeling like that. It's like this, like, woo, just supercharged energy.
Well, all the planets are going forward full steam ahead. Pluto stops at the end of the month and he goes, all right, we've evolved. Now we're going to go backwards. But everybody is forward motion. There's nobody retrograde. So it does have that sense of urgency and speed and quick. So, but that can make people nervous because they're like, I don't know. Well, just know what you know and do that. And don't worry about the other because you're going to get an opportunity to get there. It's just right now, this is the choice before you. So.
And do we have a period of time this year where everything's retrograde?
All summer.
All summer. Okay.
Yeah, it goes retrograde. The retrogrades happen when the planets are in a trine to the sun on either side. So the Pluto's in Capricorn, so he's going to be retrograde when the sun is in Taurus through Virgo. And the Aquarius planets, Saturn and Jupiter, are going to be retrograde from Gemini through Libra, air to air, because they're in Aquarius. They're in an air sign. So retrogrades always happen when the sun is in trine to, whatever the sun sign is, whatever the outer planets are, when they're in the same element, that's when the retrograde happens. So the retrograde will be the summer, it starts the end of this month when we get into Taurus for Pluto, but then when we get into Gemini, Jupiter and Saturn go retrograde, and then Pluto goes direct in Capricorn time, or in Virgo time, and then Jupiter and Saturn go direct in Libra time. Air, Gemini. That's why the elements are important, because it's basically the sun look like they're going backwards. We know they're not, but that's when they kind of catch up with each other again. So.
And that's why I'm feeling, and I bet you all can relate with this too. It's almost this sense of urgency, like we need to get the things done right now because we know that all this energy is moving forward and it's not going to feel like that forever. So we're going to have this period where things are going backwards. So we may as well get a bunch of stuff done now, and then we may have to redo things or revisit things in the summer.
Yeah, when it goes backwards, they go, do you want to revise that? And you go, yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, Anne, thank you so much. As always, it's been such a pleasure to do this weekly weather with you. I don't know about all of you, but even just having the astrology in your pocket, it's like now as she's speaking about the things that are going to come up this week, I can feel them on a deeper level, and I'm starting to really feel the energy of each one. And so as you speak about it, it's not as much like trying to memorize what you're saying, but tapping into it. Oh yeah, that's how this felt. Because even when the moon in Aries, and you said you're going to be able to get a lot done, I'm already like looking forward to the next moon in Aries because I was so productive. It was crazy. It was like I knocked off 10 things on my list.
Yeah.
So now I know, okay, well, when moon's in Aries, it's going to feel like this. So we can look forward to that. But It's just nice to have those real-time reminders as we're in it because you're experiencing the energy in that moment.
Yes, totally.
So it's very different. Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who haven't yet signed up for Astrology in Your Pocket, try it out this week. And you can cancel anytime. So if you're like, it's not for me, no worries. It's astrologyhub.com/pocket. International friends. I like feel bad every time I bring it up and rave about it because it's like raving about the party that you went to and your friend didn't get invited. You are invited. You are invited. We are really, it's truly a technology issue at this point. We want you a part of this, and we're working on alternative ways to make it available to you, like very actively.
Yeah, I will attest to that. We actually worked on it before we started this.
We did.
Jamie, who's our background lady in charge of our podcast here, she and Jamie were like strategizing, and I'm just kind of sitting going, okay, whatever. My job is to talk. You guys get to figure out how to do it. But Jamie's like, well, blah, blah. And Amanda's like, oh, blah, blah. So they're really working on it. I can be Pluto here in a test. Yes. There was a conversation. They're trying. So
we were texting over the weekend about it. So we're in. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of our world, our lives. It's amazing that our paths have crossed and we get to share this really intimate, even though we're not like face to face, it feels so intimate to share this journey with you and to align with the astrology every Monday and to share our thoughts and ideas about how to work as productively as possible with the energies. We're just so grateful that you're all here. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Astrology Hub community. And thank you, as always, for making astrology a part of your life. We will look forward to seeing you same time, same place next Monday. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.